Hi all. Hey all, welcome to the Mediaite live stream of what we're hoping will be a dramatic White House press briefing. Right now we have three people watching because the stream hasn't started. My name is Colby Hall. I'm founding editor of Mediaite.com and an expert on the Arsenal summer transfer window. So we can talk about a lot of things. Christian Norgard, Martin Zubamendi, DM, Christian Mosquera looks likely to be center fullback, center defense um, depth, and who else? Nani Madueke, Chelsea's best winger last year, joining for less than 50 million quid. Yep, I said quid. Um, so back to the briefing as we have right now. Should be starting any minute now. This will be an interesting one. What we've seen of late is that Caroline Levitt has really become sort of an impenetrable force of the White House press corps. You can see why Trump probably loves her, and I think she's probably the most capable and skilled press secretary that Trump's ever had, because sadly for us, she rarely answers questions, and she's not even competitive. She just basically is a stone wall and reiterates and repeats Trump's talking points, which is why, depending on your perspective, she's either very good or very bad at her job. Clearly, she's great in the eyes of the Trump people, but the Epstein files drama will certainly be front and center here. Whether or not they choose to wait, this should be starting. Have we started? Whether or not they choose to address this at the very beginning, will Caroline Levitt talk about the sort of MAGA infighting that's ongoing? Probably address it, but eager to move on. But it's clear that when MAGA influencers such as Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Benny Johnson have turned against Trump, they're speaking for a massive pro-Trump MAGA influencers or voters who also seem to be unimpressed by Trump administration's handling this, or even thinking that he's part of some sort of cover-up. Who knows? But it's the first time we've seen Trump really sort of deal with a backlash from his own base, which is why most in political media are fascinated by it, except, of course, Fox News hosts who seem to be more convinced or more obliged to follow Trump's do not talk about this dictum than covering the biggest political media story so far this year. Since the last biggest political media story so far this year, and until the next biggest political media story to come. Um, it's 1:11. Caroline has been sort of lax in starting on time, I will say. And it looks as though the networks are vamping. They're teasing soon White House briefing, while Katie Pavlich on Fox News talks about Zoran Mamdani. One can only wonder what Katie Pavlich has to say about Mamdani. I'm going to guess something socialist communist hurts the Democrats. That's what I'm going to guess. Um, hmm. uh, what else have we got here? Want to go back to Arsenal transfer business? It looks like Newcastle, this is not Arsenal related, but Newcastle's looking to hold on to top striker Alexander Isak. Um, and Liverpool will get Hugo Ekitike from Frankfurt. Here we go. Um, Meanwhile, the White House press briefing is while we're here. I got to say, this, a lot of people are saying, like, why are people so obsessed with the sort of Epstein files? Well, it's a conspiracy theory that was front and center a lot of the MAGA movement. I mean, it was kind of gave some credence to the QAnon conspiracy, which was bonkers. Um, and it's been in the news for well over a decade. And Trump and his largest surrogates have talked about how this is a real story. They need to reveal the list. Don Jr. said that. J.D. Vance has said this. Trump has addressed this. And now Trump is coming up with this absolutely crazy explanation that this was another hoax like Russia, 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 or the stolen election, blaming Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, which flatly makes no sense. And I'm going to quote Candace Owens, who's crazy and anti-Semitic, but she said Trump thinks his followers are stupid, and it's hard not to agree with that assessment when he's openly pivoting to kind of like this crazy theory, blaming the Democrats for something that was really sort of front and center for his campaign. Um, will our hero, Bob Roberts asked, will our hero continue to cover up Democratic crimes? I'm curious who the hero is, but I got to give a shout out for Bob Roberts. Bob Roberts' seminal and criminally overlooked political movie featuring Tim, what's his face from Shawshank Redemption, and a young Jack Black in a small role, kind of presaged the entire MAGA movement in a way that doesn't get enough great, brilliant satire from the aughts, maybe late 90s, early aughts. Um, Bob Roberts says that he loves the stupids. And in this political climate, I'm not sure who the stupids are. Are the stupids the MAGA folks who are sort of pushing back? Or is this a dig at me? Am I representing the stupids? You never know. When you put yourself out there, you open yourself up to criticism that is often without nuance and meaning, and you just kind of have to go with it. So kudos to you, Bob Roberts, for the clever name. But use your words. Let me know what it is. Oh, soon, White House briefing. Are we getting a 2-minute alert? Or who's the Bob? I love that you're actually engaging. So, Bob, thank you for participating. Who are the uneducated in your mind, Bob? Are they the sort of MAGA set who are sort of pushing back, or are they the lib turds, for lack of a better term? Or perhaps he's saying all of the above? Bob, I want to know. Maybe they're not uneducated, they're just sort of not yet educated. And Bob, you and I can work together to forge a more perfect union by educating the unwashed masses and create the harmonic convergence that we so desperately need. Um, Fox News has gone to commercial, fresh pet. So it looks like we're at least a couple minutes away, although if it starts, they'll typically break in. The good news for you 5 people that are watching, 36 people are watching now. The good news is that we're straight from uncut White House live stream. So when they go live, it should just start right out. Um, as I was saying earlier, Caroline Levitt is very, very good at her job. She gives big Tracy Flick energy. For those of you who remember the great movie, The Election, Saint Cynical One, who I don't know is really a saint, asks, are we still getting paid by Soros? I haven't gotten a check lately. Um, I've, if the Soros Foundation were willing to pay me, I would not be living in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. Um, if you're listening, George and or Alex Soros, let's talk. Bob Roberts still being somewhat coy and says that we now have both running the country, the stupids and the uneducated. So it seems that Bob Roberts has revealed him or herself to be a anti-Trumper, never Trumper. It's tough to really sort of know. Fox News is promoting a new Fox Nation series called Sean Hannity Wanted, Dead, or Alive, complete with an image of Sean with guns. Um, ah, Bob, you've disappointed. Bob Roberts is commenting, which I love, but doesn't seem to be more, he's more into sloganeering than a real dialogue. Other issues that I think will come up in this press briefing was sort of overlooked by the whole sort of MAGA split with Trump over the Epstein hoax. But Trump's sort of re-engagement and support of NATO in the context of offering weaponry and support to Ukraine and just blasting Putin and ratcheting up the sort of saber rattling with Putin and nukes. I don't know if that got enough attention, but in any other sort of news cycle, that would be a huge deal. Though foreign affairs doesn't typically lead to a lot of traffic on domestic news sites because domestic news seekers are less interested in foreign affairs. Tito, welcome aboard, Tito R. Hope you're named after a famous San Francisco Giants second baseman, Tito Fuentes. Not the drummer Tito Puente, but Tito Fuentes, one of my favorite baseball players when I was a kid. Tito asks or says he's hoping for honest answers and hard-hitting questions. Thank you. I am too. I am too. And I would say that Caroline Levitt does a good job of answering. I wouldn't say that she's dishonest. I think she deflects. She rarely sort of addresses the question or the issue at hand or that's being, and instead sort of either dismisses the so-called agenda behind the question and pivots to talking points, which is why press briefings under the second Trump administration, under her leadership, have been far less newsworthy. They've been less confrontational, and I will credit where due. 6 months in, Caroline Levitt has gotten way more comfortable. She's, there's a weird phenomenon that happens with the press corps over the course of the first 6 months to a year. Oh, wait, are we going to the press briefing? Nope. Well, the reporters realize that the value of what they do is tied to access to the White House, whether it be access to the president or other leadership, the White House comms team. And so what you end up seeing is this weird phenomenon where a lot of reporters sort of try to strike the right balance between maintaining access and pleasing the subjects that they're trying to cover. And so often, under the guise of asking sort of serious-ish and kind of detailed questions, avoid kind of the specific gotcha confrontation. Because if someone asks a hard gotcha question, they'll likely lose their next time that they'll be asked a question. They'll be sort of excommunicated from the briefing room, or at least the sort of news-making process. And so that's why you have really top reporters that kind of don't necessarily go for the jugular, because going for the jugular effectively kills your ability. So the best reporters, and I would put Caitlin Collins up there, and I don't think she's in the room today. Caitlin's able to sort of get to the nut, the conflict, the nut of the question or the issue, and do it in a professional, dispassionate way that, gets a good answer. The other person who does this really well from a very different perspective is Peter Doocy, who's probably asked some of the toughest questions of the Trump administration, the second term. And he does it because Trump likes him, because he's sort of a charming goofball and was so tough on the Biden administration that I think he's cashing in the goodwill that he established during, someone said, hi, Colby, ZK. I wonder if that's Zeke Manley or my old friend Zeke Turner. But anyway, it's nice to see some people chiming in. The Saint Cynical one is, I think, jokingly says that he hopes we get some riveting questions from the likes of Tim Pool. I'll be honest with you, I'll go on record and saying, I don't know there's anyone that's ever been in the briefing room that's a bigger tool of instrument for the sitting administration than Tim Pool. That guy's a joke, absolute joke, and should be embarrassed. Um, but he is committed to wearing that knit cap that seems obviously covering his hair challenged pate. But you know what? Live and let live. Um, Bob says that this is the internet, 30-second attention span, can't dialogue when it takes minutes to respond. Liberal here, but cynical as heck. A cynical liberal. Interesting. I will say that I appreciate your candor, Bob. I think that's good. JD agrees. Um, oh, here we go. Bob makes it clear. He says Trump calls his MAGA followers stupid, which he did, and they agree. Um, it reminds me of that New Yorker cartoon, um, The Wolf Runs for Office Who Promises to Eat Sheep, or Mayor Quimby in The Simpsons talking about how the Springfield constituents that he represents are all idiots. And they're like, "You're right, Mayor Quimby, give us hell." That's what the MAGAsphere is basically reacting to Trump, who's insisting that they stop talking about Epstein files. But of course, every time he brings it up or answers a question, it keeps it in the news cycle. It's a fascinating story. Um, Bob says they've been hypnotized by Fox. Hypnotized is not something I would say, but I think you're onto something. Brainwashed is too far. But when you only consume one narrative, you lose perspective. And the same thing happens on MSNBC and to some extent CNN. But I think the larger issue is you only hear one narrative. That's the narrative you think that only matters, right? And so the editorial decisions, not just at Fox News, but at MSNBC, I think CNN does a slightly better job of this. The biggest criticism is what they choose not to cover. And I've written a column today, I've written a bunch about this. It's stunning to me that the Fox News opinion hosts, their Fox News primetime has had higher ratings, more viewers than any other TV network, including broadcast, over the last 3 weeks. More than Fox Broadcasting, more than ABC, NBC, and CBS. That's stunning. And apart from some jokes on Gutfeld and some slight mentions by Laura Ingraham from 7 to 8, Jesse Waters, The Five, Sean Hannity, Fox and Friends, the opinion shows on Fox News since Monday have almost entirely ignored this story. It looks like we have the 2-minute warning. Let me make sure that my audio is okay. I have to give an email to. Hold, please. Uh, Not critical thinkers on Fox, nor those watching Fox. JD says, I think you could probably make the same claim to a lot of other people, a lot of viewers of other networks. I do think that um, MSNBC is perhaps a bit more fact-based, but they really only want to tell one side of the story. They had a real Joe Biden problem when the cognitive decline came in front and center, and Chick Tapper and Alex Thompson's book came out, Original Sin, flatly ignored by MSNBC because they refused to sort of admit that they kind of ignored the story. In fact, Joe Scarborough said that Joe Biden in April of 24 was the sharpest he's ever been. So by covering a story that says that he was really out of it, so yeah, I don't think it's Fox News that's the only one that sort of creates a bubble. I just think Fox News is better at that. MCAT says Weakling edition, only MAGA can take such a beating from their orange daddy and ask for seconds. Interesting aside, MCAT. I think that's interesting. And, um, Trash Media is talking about a UFC event in Nashville where Trump tweeted that Obama and Hillary wrote the Epstein files and that he was in them. The murmur between fights was incredible. It's interesting inside Trash Media, but I don't think Trash Media is your real name. Maybe it is. But I do like that you're talking about this in kayfabe. It's Casey. Casey. His friends call him, or her friends. Oh, it's Casey from Mediaite? Say yes or no. Our old friend Casey, former Mediaite contributor, good friend of the sites. Lovely dude. Fascinating. Hope it's yes, Casey. Dude, you're a loyal fan. Good to see you back here. Good man. All right. I'm just prattling on. Uh, while we, it's been 27 minutes of me talking and just killing air, and to 54 people watching me talk about nothing in general. How about that? Frank, do you want to get on TV or YouTube? Could introduce my dog. Again, we could kill time talking like, oh, I'm sorry, Saint Cynical One feels like chopped liver. I don't know who you are. If you used to work for us at Mediaite, then I would give you a shout. But I'm giving you a shout now. Um, I guess YouTube has these things where they add crowns to commenters' names based on rankings. Saint Cynical is number one. Can anyone explain to me what this is? Has YouTube gamified comments? I hope so. It's kind of fun. So returning to the summer transfer winner of the Premier League, I think it's fair to say Liverpool looks really good by picking up Florian Wirtz, two great fullbacks in Frimpong and Kirkez and Ekatike. They might be hard pressed to sell Darwin Nunes, but we'll see. I think Arsenal's also had a terrific window. I got to say, I think João Pedro joining Chelsea and teaming up with Palmer, as we saw in the Club World Cup Championship, they looked really good together. And I loathe Chelsea, but I think they're going to be better than anyone wants them to be next year, unless you're, of course, a Chelsea fan. Um, Saint One, I think if you tag more, you do win something. And I think you win the love and support of fellow commentators and myself. Okay. Are we still? Am I muted? It says unmute. I don't want to mute myself. Hey, they're in chat. I see an unmute thing up. Am I muted? Tell me if I'm muted. Bob, Casey, Saint Cynical One, JD. Technology. Still not happening. This has been fun. I appreciate y'all's chiming. What else do you guys want to talk about? Dogs? Oh, I'm not muted. Good. I won't pass gas. I can get my guitar out. That wouldn't be fun for anyone. Um, you all see that video of the Coldplay concert goers that were Casey's encouraging me to play guitar. Maybe one day, but not today. Um, appreciate you getting a lighter, Saint Cynical One. Yeah, so the camera during a concert focused on a man and a woman having sort of an intimate hubby moment during a Coldplay song, because let's face it, Coldplay brings out the sensitivities in all of us. And the reaction revealed that it looks like they were having an affair. And I gotta say, I don't know, there was something sort of wonderfully karmic about people that go to a Coldplay concert. Well, with people that aren't their spouses. I mean, and the follow up is the wife of the CEO, was astronomy CEO in Boston, but appeared to be caught. It's not confirmed, allegedly. Has since changed the last name on her Facebook profile. So, um, yeah, I don't know. If we're going to talk about Coldplay, I'll just say that the first record, Parachutes, was a lovely record. Everything after that was straight up Drek. Not afraid to say it. Straight up Drek. Um, Mark Halpin reveals a blockbuster Trump Epstein expose is about to drop. So perhaps that's what's holding this up. All right, people are asking for it. I'm not going to get my guitar. I'm not. One day. Um, Maybe I'll get my acoustic guitar and I'll just strum along. You know who plays guitar? Douchebags. Okay. Thanks, Joe. Joe DePaulo says that he can hear me. Joe DePaulo, the most stand-up person in the Mediaite staff. I can't play Stairway to Heaven. I'm more of a major seventh chord guy. Lots of bossa nova. Lots of I'm a sucker for Brian Wilson and Burt Bacharach and you know, Paul Weller, Star Council, Debussy, Fado. I like the pretty music. Um, no shame in my game because I'll always be the same. If I can quote Five Dog, big Tribe Called Quest fan as well. Um, Side of Fate sounds is outstanding. In fact, the instrumental song so "Let's Go Away for a While" with the timpani kettle drums at the ends. I got chills just thinking about it. That's as beautiful a bit of music that anyone's ever created. And when Byron Wilson died, that was what I chose to honor him with because that it sounded like some music that basically elicits chemicals in my brain that make you feel good. And it's those major seventh chords that just am I am I just vamping now? Next time I'm not gonna believe Caroline Levitt when she says we're gonna start something at 1 o'clock and then wait 34 minutes. Do we think, chat, that Mark Halperin's sort of revelation. I'll read from the story. Veteran political journalist Mark Halperin, who loved to get really close to the people he worked with when he was at ABC, revealed Thursday that everyone believes a blockbuster expose about the relationship between Trump and Epstein is about to drop. One of the points of this platform in the age of transparency is to narrow the gap between elites like Dan Turrentine and Sean Spicer and the people like the two-way community and myself. So let me share something with you that, quote, everyone, I say that in air quotes, everyone I know has been publicly reported. Everyone I know believes in major newspaper, one of the top 3 newspapers in the country is about to publish a piece about Trump's relationship with Epstein. Okay? Everyone I know knows that, and people in the White House know that too. When that story drops, if it drops today, and some people will think it might, it could drive the story. So, yeah, I that would be interesting. It does feel like tension's brewing and the tension's going to have to break. It does feel also like, the Occam's razor here is that Trump saying that he's got nothing to do with it and this flat out bullshit conspiracy that it came up. This is a result of, Comey and Obama and Biden. I mean, the timeline doesn't even work with that. It just reeks of someone who is trying to cover something up. And I don't necessarily know that, you know, he was part of the underage sexual rapey hijinks. Let's hope that he's not. Let's hope that no one is, because that's a terrible, terrible thing. But clearly he was consorting. I remember a quote before, I don't know if Trump was a candidate or pre-candidate. And this is after he'd spent a lot of time with Epstein in both New York City and Palm Beach. He basically said, we should look that up. There's a clip of him saying about Jeffrey Epstein is a good guy who loves to hang out with young girls, young women, very young women. Google that. What is this? Schrodinger's list. Funny joke, St. Cynical One. Trump, Epstein hangs out very young girls, quote. Um, in 2019, he said he wasn't a fan. Okay. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything in this ABC News report. No, many of them are on the younger side. In 2002, Donald Trump called Jeffrey Epstein a fun and terrific guy and added, it is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. This is something he said. right here. I'm quoting it right here. This is from Yahoo News, who quotes Snopes. Yahoo News does not cite bad Snopes stuff. Yeah, John Casablanca's connection is, let's not forget that Woody Allen movie Manhattan, which was lauded as a critical sort of feat, featured the protagonist and director, Woody Allen, dating a high school senior played by Marilyn Hemingway, right? Speaking of Brazilian pop music, Caetano Veloso, part of the Tropicalia bit, Os Mutantes, he dated a 14-year-old girl in the 60s. All of this is terrible. All of this is gross. But social mores have shifted. I think in the 90s, it was pretty well accepted that that was inappropriate. Jerry Seinfeld dated a high school senior before he married Jessica Seinfeld. Have we forgotten that? By the way, I have a few friends in the comedy bracket. Stand-up comedians have this weird predilection for young women. It's not just Jerry Seinfeld. I know that for a fact, and it's kind of weird. We have 79 people watching. Been streaming for 51 minutes, says the ticker. And I'm not a stand-up comedian. Zeke Manley, give me a note. Let's see what we got. What else we got? Any other big news? Nothing yet. What is Twitter saying? CNBC shakeup? Not interesting. The other big media news today is that basically it looks like Corporation for Public Funding is kaput, and NPR and PBS are losing their federal funding. That's a shame because those institutions have served us incredibly well. I will say that I agree with my man Uri that NPR has become intolerably lefty over the years, but they're fact-based and their local organizations do a great service to their local affiliates, but the national morning edition and all things considered have really become sort of a caricature of themselves. So I think, it's terrible that they've lost their funding, and I think it's short-sighted, but also I was a big NPR listener starting with Bob Edwards back in the day, but over the last 10 or 15 years, it's a good focus group, but it's pretty intolerable to listen to. What else we got? Are we close to starting? Fox News is on Caitlin Clark News. They still have their Chiron soon White House briefing. Can you do it? I'll do it. Feedback.
Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize for our tardiness. I was with the president. Let me begin with a few scheduling announcements today. President Trump will travel to Scotland, where he will visit both Turnberry and Aberdeen from July 25th to July 29th. During the visit, President Trump will meet again with Prime Minister Starmer to refine the great trade deal that was brokered between the United States and the United Kingdom. And the President and the First Lady will travel to the United Kingdom for an official state visit from September 17th to September.
Well, I love it wearing her signature all white, showing her support of the suffragette movement of the 1920s. Maybe?
With His Majesty the King at Windsor Castle. There has been a wave of positive economic news over the past week, which I would like to highlight today. Joe Biden's inflation crisis has been defeated. Prices paid to American businesses for goods and services.
Consumer Price Index was actually up last announcement.
And core inflation, which is the best measure of inflation, came in lower than expected again in the month of June. Since President Trump took office, core inflation has tracked at just 2.1% overall and has come in below or at economists' expectations every single month.
The expectations weren't necessarily great, so that's a sort of not entirely fair framing, but this is how people shape numbers to tell the story that they want to tell, that on both
Gas,
sides.
fuel oil, energy commodities, hotels, airfare, public transportation, and fresh vegetables are all down over last year. As we said all along, trust in President Trump.
Everyone knew fresh vegetables was going to get a big shot. They always lead with the fresh vegetables thing because fresh vegetables are hot. I mean, they're not temperature-wise hot, but they're like culturally. You open fresh vegetables, you know you're onto
To
something.
stand up for our workers and businesses and rebalance America's trading agreement.
Funny photo select. Funny photo select to feature Trump doing his white man dance move. It's they're like, yeah, that's a good shot. That's a good look of Trump. Let's put that up. What are they thinking?
In reality, tariffs are a source of massive revenue. We're seeing trillions of dollars in private investment pour into our country right now because the companies around this world want to make their products right here with American labor and not have to pay any tariffs at all. Customs and tariff revenue has already totaled more than
I love its demeanor and her way of communicating. It sort of evokes an evangelist. She's like a secular MAGA evangelist. And this is why she's beloved in pro Trump circles, right? And why she's incredibly effective at her job.
On another matter,
Doesn't necessarily seem like she's
the
that
president was
focused on the truth.
proud to sign the Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act into law, surrounded by angel families to help finally end the devastating
The Anti-Fentanyl Act. That's something. That's an easy win. Everyone's opposed to fentanyl. It reminds me when Clinton was really down in the polls, he came out against children smoking because no one was going to say like, "Hey, kids need to smoke." So focusing on stopping fentanyl. That is as bipartisan, except for the fentanyl lobby. Fentanyl lobby is
for law
furious.
enforcement to prosecute vicious traffickers who peddle poison in our communities. President Trump has always made tackling the drug crisis a top priority, and this important bipartisan legislation further follows through on that commitment. The complete and total success at our southern border that many in the media in this room continue to ignore is another example of the president keeping his word to families who have lost loved ones due to fentanyl, and it's another win for the American people. Customs and Border Protection
Great cynical one is he says he's going to miss legally trafficking fentanyl. That's we found our naysayer.
72 Southwest apprehensions in June, 15% lower than the previous record that this president set in the month of March. To put that in perspective, the Biden administration routinely saw the same number of encounters in a single day, and on many days, that number was more than 10,000 apprehensions at the Southwest border.
I don't care where you are politically, the numbers on the border are sort of objectively way, way better, and that's by far the biggest mistake that the Biden administration did. You could argue that the way the Trump administration has gone about it has been unethical, un-American, draconian. You cannot argue that it's not been effective.
Arresting violent, criminal, illegal aliens all across the country.
Cruelty is the point.
Alien from Mexico, convicted of attempted rape of a child in North Carolina.
Imagine these are just stock photos that they bought, and you're watching this guy, and you're like, "Wait, I sold that image. That's not. I'm not arrested." Stock imagery. This is why you don't sell your face to stock imagery outlets, because you can end up looking like a. No, I'm joking. I shouldn't joke
Arrested
about
a 32-year-old illegal criminal alien from Mexico who was previously convicted for child abuse and injury. ICE Baltimore arrested a criminal illegal alien from El Salvador convicted in Maryland for possession of child pornography. And ICE
six individuals rationalize all of the ICE detainees.
ICE are heroes. They are putting their lives on the line every day to get the worst of the worst, these types of criminals, out of our communities and out of our country. And the president continues to strongly have the backs of all ICE agents who are doing their jobs to keep all of us including everyone in this room, safe. The facility, sorry, 1 second. In other news, following President Trump's bold executive actions protecting American children from irreversible chemical and surgical mutilation, the largest provider of
So cynical one makes a good point. So immigrants messing with kids, bad. Rich people doing the same thing, okay. Good point. You bring up illegal aliens doing child porn and sexual assault. It's sort of a layup for a tough reporter to then say, like, how did Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell get convicted for underage sex crimes and no one no one else no one else got blamed? There's no list, it's a hoax. That doesn't add up.
Healthy and productive lives. Finally, last night, Senate Republicans passed President Trump's $9 billion Recisions package. This will help restore fiscal sanity in our country by rescinding billions in wasteful foreign aid.
Restoring fiscal sanity after passing a bill that will increase our deficit for trillions of dollars. Just come on.
Federal dollars to push a partisan left-wing agenda for many years. The House should pass this rescissions package immediately and send it to the president's desk for signature. On another note, I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today.
Physician's note.
President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70.
Importantly, he's old, his legs are swelling. Don't laugh, it's going to happen to all of us if we get to 79.
Complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the
That's just in commenter Bob Roberts insists he's not a robot. You know who says they're not a robot? I'll let you answer that.
And the use of aspirin, which is taken as
robots say that.
Regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witnessed.
It's like he needed to eat more fresh vegetables. You know, you mentioned it earlier. Hard not to put two and two together.
The memorandum from the president's position to all of you, as we always do. And we'll get to questions. Here in our new media seat, we have Frank Corva, who's the White House correspondent for Bitcoin Magazine, which comes at a time.
Bitcoin Magazine, it's crypto week, so we're going to get crypto magazines in the new media seat.
Sure.
I was curious to hear if the president was in favor of removing any and all language around central bank digital currencies from the Genius Act, maybe as a means to get it across the line and get it on his desk. And then
the guy from Crypto Week is asking about deregulating crypto. I didn't see that coming.
So I was just wondering if you could comment on those.
Sure. Well, the president did signal his support for a de minimis exemption for crypto, and the administration continues to be in support of that. We are definitely receptive to it.
Does that seem rehearsed? Does that seem planned?
Efficient for those who seek to use crypto as simple as buying a cup of coffee. Of course, right now that cannot happen, but with the de minimis exemption, perhaps it could in the future, and we will continue to explore legislative solutions to accomplish that. As for the central bank digital currency and the Genius Act, which you noted has passed through Congress and will be sent to the president's desk. I believe the House is voting on it. If they haven't, they should be passing it. We know we have the votes, and we expect it to get to the president's desk, and we are planning a signing ceremony tomorrow afternoon. All of you will get more details on that. This piece of legislation is going to make America
Roberts in chat says Trump's going to live to 110.
And that's what the president promised.
And that
As
she's
for
an
a central
automaton.
bank
I
digital
do
currency,
think
the president opposes that. He
Caroline,
made that
or rather,
promise to the
Trump
American people
is
on
a
the
bit of,
campaign. And
it
while
reminds
it's
me a
not
bit of
in this
Rasputin,
specific piece of
a political
legislation,
Rasputin.
he did sign a
Cannot kill him.
January executive order banning a
He's
central bank digital
beyond
currency.
Teflon. He's
The administration
Rasputin-esque.
supports Congress's efforts to codify that executive order into law, and I believe there will be future pieces of legislation in regards to crypto that will be moving through Capitol Hill. The president looks forward to signing them, and he looks forward to the signing ceremony this afternoon. So thank you for being with us today. Sure. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday.
Jackie Heinrich coming on clean with the Epstein
Can you
files.
clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency.
I'm sorry, this is nonsensical. It's not just the Democrats that are seizing on this. It's MAGA influencers.
The Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions, and they spent many months.
This is not what a hoax means. She asked, like, what part of this is a hoax? This is where she's terrible and good all at once, depending upon your perspective.
So the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania.
Here's the pivot. She didn't answer the question, which part is the hoax? And now she's, I'm going to mute her because she's just going to say all the same shit that Trump's been saying, all the wins. And he's had some political wins, but he's calling this whole thing a hoax. And she can't describe what part is actually
Yesterday,
hoaxy.
he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, the president is in the east room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single...
No, that's not the point. The point is that Megyn Kelly, Benny Johnson, Candace Owens, even Charlie Kirk, after saying he's not going to cover it anymore, is covering it again. It's not the Democrats that are seizing on this. In fact, it's the MAGA base that's seizing on this. The Democrats are fecklessly following their lead.
The story, but you do have some prominent figures, including the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, voicing support for the files to come out. Representative Massey collecting signatures that would force a discharge petition for a vote on the floor for this. It doesn't seem to be going away. What is stopping the administration from just redacting any sensitive information, grand jury information, and putting out what is appropriate so that the American people can decide and then let this story die?
Well, in terms of redactions or grand jury seals, those are questions for the Department of Justice. Those are also questions for the judges who have that information under a seal.
Report to the Department of Justice, presuming, of course, that Pam Bondi isn't basically doing what Trump's asking him to do.
Agreement with some of the leaders on Capitol Hill that if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice come across any other credible evidence, they should provide that to the American people. The president has said that, and he agrees with them on that.
Why did you fire Maureen Comey?
The Department of Justice did, and I would defer you to them. Dasha.
Has the White House been directly in touch with some of the MAGA influencers that are still not satisfied with the administration's handling? And has the message to them been similar to what the president has said, which is sort of either let this go or we don't need your support?
Well, look, the president and this team are always in contact with the president's supporters, with voices of many kinds on both sides of the aisle. I think that's part of the reason this president is a great president, because he's willing to listen and hear other people's perspectives. But ultimately, he has led this country, not just over the past 6 months to historic success, but also through his first 4 years as president. And as the leader and the creator of the MAGA movement, he has led through these
Look, ignore the question. A good question about how even Republicans in Congress are asking for more transparency. Quickly pivot to successes. Rinse, repeat. This is the game.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. The president on Monday announced that if there's not compliance with Russia within 50 days, there would be increased tariffs. Can you explain how that works, first of all? What happens?
I thought the Russia-NATO 50 day thing was going to be another big story. It should be. Not everything is
Clearly
Epstein
laid
related.
out. If there is not a ceasefire agreement or a peace deal within that time frame, if Russia refuses to legitimately agree to a ceasefire, then they will face very steep tariffs, and they will also face secondary sanctions. So countries that are purchasing oil from Russia will be
Sergey
sanctioned as
Lavrov
well, and of
basically
course that
mocked
will do
this
deep damage
50
to
day
Russia's economy. And I would just
sort of
add
deadline,
that the
sort
president
of publicly.
wants this
So it does
wants this
seem like
war to end
Putin
with
and
a
Russia
diplomatic
are
solution.
openly ignoring and just playing the Trump
This
administration.
administration has spent many hours and a lot of time trying to solve this war very far away, but the president wants to stop the killing and he wants to save lives.
As far
Reagan,
as the first part
go
of
ahead.
what you were saying, Caroline. the
Reagan,
first
go
part,
ahead.
I have two questions for
It's
you.
just about, if I may, just about the tariffs, the first part. I get the secondary tariffs, but there was only $3 billion worth of trade between the U.S. and Russia in 2024. It's expected to be far less this particular year. On April the 2nd, both you and the Treasury Secretary said it's not necessary to apply any tariffs on Russia. You said that because of the lack of trade, it precludes, that was the word you used, any need for tariffs. Why now, and why do you think that that would make them cave and come to some sort of peace agreement as it relates to Ukraine?
$3 billion is still a lot of money, John, and it's not just tariffs, it's the secondary sanctions as well that will be implemented in 50 days. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions for
Sure.
you. First on Congress. Congresswoman Salazar introduced legislation that would give some illegal immigrants in the country a path to citizenship. 10 Republicans signed on to what she's calling the Dignity Act. I'm curious what the White House's position is on the legislation and if the president would veto this bill if it made it to its desk.
From my understanding, the White House nor the president has actually read through this legislation. We've been focused on, of course, the One Big Beautiful Bill, which passed, which is another historic accomplishment of this president in record time. The Genius Act this week, the Recisions package, that's been the focus.
Aaron Steele reminds us that Trump famously said, quote, "I will end all the wars in 24 hours," right? The fact that Russia has gone on much, much longer than he expected. It hasn't been, but it will eventually become a big political loss for the Trump administration, as it should, because his promises were foolish to begin with. So it's not that he ended the war, it's just that he would say or do whatever, even if it was
NPR
bullshit.
Helps the public safety of our country, but I do know that NPR unfortunately has become really just a propaganda voice for the left. Just a few examples for you. In 2020, NPR refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop scandal in the run-up to the election. They said their assertions don't amount to much, writing they did not want to waste the
NPR is a propaganda arm for the left, but the handling of Hunter Biden laptop, when they did it, what she's citing, it was really early. And at that point, it was not corroborable. No one knew what it was true. And those 51 intel officers, they were right. It did look like Russian disinformation, right? That's the headline that Dasha Burns posted in the Politico, or was it Tasha Bertrand's article? The Politico headline said that it was a bad headline.
Characterized President Trump's speech then at Mount Rushmore as a love letter to white resentment, promoting the myth of America. In 2017, PBS devoted an entire panel talking about what it means to be woke and white privilege. In 2023, PBS's Washington Week Roundtable covered up Joe Biden's clear mental divide. That's actually quite the clip. I would encourage all of you to look at it. These are not honest news organizations. These are partisan, left-wing outlets that are funded by the taxpayers. And this administration does not believe it's a good use of the taxpayers' time and money. Ed Lawrence.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. I want to ask you about the Federal Reserve. So does the president believe that the slightly restrictive monetary policy stance right now, could that cause an economic slowdown? And if he does believe that, when?
What pause are you referring to?
No, could the stance of the monetary policy is slightly restrictive? Does the president believe that?
Highly restrictive monetary policy questions. I'm sorry, let me take a nap real quick. You want a Federal Reserve question? Go to Jerome Powell and Trump's shit talking. That's more interesting
About
to
his
me.
displeasure with both the policies and the management of the Fed, and he spoke about that to all of you pretty extensively in the Oval Office yesterday.
Yeah, and last month, one more if I could. Last month, the Canadian Prime Minister said the president had agreed to a July 21st deadline to sort of work towards a trade agreement. That's 4 days from now. Could there be a trade agreement with Canada in 4 days?
Well, look, we'll see. The trade team continues to be very active in our conversations and
We'll
discussions
see.
with Canada. The
That
president
sounds like
said,
no way.
unfortunately,
Seems
our
like trade
trade war has been
policies
pretty difficult to
are
deal with
whimsical
when it
and
comes to
not
matters
necessarily
on
structured
trade.
plan.
But in trade, generally speaking, as you know, 25 countries have received letters thus far from the president directly with his big, beautiful signature on them, from Japan to Korea, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, just a few countries, and Canada also received a letter for 35%. With that said,
Iraq, Iran. You know, I speak very fluent French. Told them, chèvre. That's a don't you worry about a thing reference from
countries
Stevie
have been
Wonder.
receiving are the deals. And as the president has said,
Right.
those deals will be made. They are tailor-made to each and every country based on the United States' concerns and what's in the best interest of the American worker and the American people. Charlie, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline.
No, I called on Charlie, but Deanna, you can go ahead too. Go ahead.
The president said that he floated the idea of a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. Can you confirm that? And has he asked the Attorney General to do this, to appoint a special prosecutor to look at?
Is this
The
Breitbart's
idea
Charlie?
was floated from someone in the media to the president. The president would not recommend a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. That's how he feels. And as for his discussions with the attorney general, I'm not sure. Deanna.
Thank you so much. Do you know what the president's reaction was to Mike Johnson saying that he wants additional files released, the Epstein files? Was there a conversation with Mike Johnson about that following his comments?
I won't discuss the president's private conversations with the Speaker of the House, but as I answered to Jackie's question earlier, the president has said if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice and the FBI have any more credible evidence...
If the Attorney General wants to do it, it's fine, but privately, Attorney General basically said that there was no there there.
With a few days.
I'll go to all of you, starting with the lady in the blue. Go ahead.
With a few days to the August 9th deadline, how are the negotiations with Europe going? There's some sticking points. What are they? Can we expect a delay, or should we expect a deal soon?
Well, I believe the deadline is August 1st. As for the European Union, they continue to be very eager in negotiating with our country for obvious reasons on ways to lower their tariff and their non-tariff barriers that we have long said harm our workers and our companies. So
This moment
the
introduced my
president's
dog
trade team
Frank.
continue to be in talks with the European Union.
Would he accept,
The
or
Frank.
would he put forth
He's a good boy.
postponement of the August 1st?
He's already said he will not. Oh, and go ahead.
Good afternoon, Caroline. In Gaza today, Holy Family Catholic Church was struck by an Israeli shell.
Yes.
3 people were killed, 10 wounded. What is the president's reaction to that church coming under fire?
Israel's bombing Catholic churches. That's not something we expected to hear about or
Church in
anyone
Gaza,
wants to see.
and I
The Holy War just crashed up. The Jews are killing
mistake
Catholics.
by
No,
the
that's so
Israelis to
funny.
hit that Catholic church. That's what the Prime Minister relayed to the President, and you should look at the Prime Minister's statement that will be coming out. Steve, go ahead.
Back to your letter that you read at the beginning.
Sure.
The president, you said mild swelling in his legs.
Yes,
is
sir.
it causing him any discomfort? How are you treating it?
Nope, no discomfort from
No discomfort. Trump's tough as a rock.
He's working around the clock. As for the treatments, I can defer to the President's physician, and we'll get you this letter. I think it will answer all your questions.
There are reports that a Chinese-born banker who works in Atlanta for Wells Fargo is being prevented from leaving China. Has the president, is he going to bring this up with President Xi? Are you aware of the case?
I'm not aware of the case, but I'm sure our National Security Council team is. Steve, we'll get you some answers on that. Kristen.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. So the first is that President Trump said that the Attorney General only gave him a brief overview of what was in these Epstein files. Does he have knowledge or an understanding of what is in the files related to Epstein that have not been released?
Not to my knowledge, and that's a question for the Attorney General, as I said, and the President has told the Attorney General if they have any more credible evidence.
To my knowledge, the 4 most important words of any press secretary. She's not lying, she doesn't know.
So he said if she has any more credible evidence, she should release it. Go ahead.
It's no big deal. There's nothing to see here. These are not the Epstein files you're looking for.
You can go ahead, Andrew. Don't worry.
Today, tens of thousands of folks are rallying nationwide to honor the legacy of Congressman John Lewis. Meanwhile, Republicans in Texas reportedly are working to redraw congressional maps at President Trump's urging. How is President Trump reconciling his call to action for Texas Republicans with the legacy of Representative John Lewis?
I'm not quite sure how the two things are related. I think the president would agree that John Lewis served our country for many, many years. It has nothing to do with the redistricting efforts that are currently underway by Texas Republicans to add seats to their legislature. They have the right to do that. The president spoke to the congressmen and women who serve the great state of Texas about it, but it's up to them and it's up to their legislature to get that approved.
And Caroline, just a second question.
Go
Does
ahead.
the president support the Justice Department's request for just 1 day in jail for the officer convicted in Breonna Taylor's killing? And what message does he believe that sends to her family and to other families seeking justice in cases of police violence?
Question about Breonna Taylor's.
That case. Go ahead.
When the president met the interim president of Syria a couple of months ago, he described him as a young, tough, attractive guy. After the latest clashes in Syria over the last few days, does President Trump still support Syria's interim president?
The president still supports Syria's pathway to a peaceful and prosperous country. And
It feels like we've sort of gotten the heads and tails of the Epstein files stuff. Like there's not going to be any sort of big news or gotcha moments in this. Caroline Levitt's inability to explain what precisely was the hoax, I think, was probably the best moment there. And kudos to Jackie Heinrich, who looks fantastic. Her new engagement suits her. It's good for her. Congratulations, Jackie. She's a lovely, lovely human being.
Sanctions on Syria. He's giving them a real chance to do that, and he wants to see that through. Andrew, go ahead.
So on Tuesday, the president told a very detailed story about his uncle, noted scientist John Trump, and Theodore Kaczynski.
Andrew Feinberg? Great question.
He said that Dr. Trump taught Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski was not identified as the Unabomber until 1996, 11 years after John Trump passed away. It would have been impossible for John Trump.
This was in a Daily Show segment with Jordan Clapper.
With
and went viral. This is a great question.
About, and I have one follow-up.
Andrew, with so many issues going on in the world, I'm a little bit surprised you would ask such a question, although I'm not sometimes coming from you, I will say, but I'm willing to give you an answer. Nevertheless, the president's uncle did, in fact, teach at MIT. He was a very intelligent professor. The president's very proud.
Is that answering the question?
In fact, I have the president has a letter from his uncle on the MIT letterhead that sits in the Oval Office dining room. Maybe we'll let you see it sometime.
And then one,
Elizabeth.
Caroline, one more.
Elizabeth,
will the
go
president consider pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell
Elizabeth,
if the Epstein case is a hoax?
Okay, I'll start off with the president said last week he would not be getting involved in the New York City mayoral case. If that mayoral race, if that's the case,
great question.
Drawing a large crowd in New York City, what's his reason for staying out of it in that way?
Well, look, I think the president reserves the right to get involved in races.
Will he consider pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell if it's a hoax? That's the question you should have led with. Yeah, that's a great question.
Although he has gone as far to say he absolutely does not want to see Zemdami elected, who is a known communist who supports the abolishment of private property, the defunding of police. He has made very well-known anti-Semitic statements. It would be a disaster for New York and for this country. And I think it's quite telling that this individual, a known communist, has been spending time in Washington this week meeting with leaders on Capitol Hill. This is truly where the Democrat Party is headed. Clearly, they learned nothing from November 5th in the president's overwhelming victory. Mary, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I want to backtrack to the hospitals that have stopped providing transgender surgeries and hormones for kids. On this front, does that have anything to do with the DOJ subpoenas last week? Should we expect any more hospitals be shutting down their programs? And I wanted to also ask what you make of all these media reports, especially the AP, which I noticed, which portrays these children as losing something that's saving their lives.
Yes, I think the president spoke a lot about this issue, political issue, but also really a cultural issue that impacts children and families. He talked about it a lot on the campaign, and I think he was quite surprised by the uptick we were seeing in the embracement by the Democrat Party when it comes to the chemical castration and mutilation of young innocent bodies. And so the president made it a very early priority to sign very strong executive orders to cut off the funding for any hospital or any medical facility in this country that provides such barbaric procedures. And as a result of that strong policy and the president's strong common sense position on this issue, we've had such an overwhelming response, which is great for children in Arizona. Phoenix Children's Hospital has stopped providing puberty blockers and hormone therapy to minors. In California, Stanford Medicine ended...
Things being equal, this is a pretty marathon press briefing. I mean, they started much later, but these things simply have gone like 20, 30 minutes, and now I'm closing in on 45, 50 now that she's been on. Of course, I'm supposed to start at 1
for minors.
p.m.
These are barbaric practices that no child, innocent child, should have to endure. And the president wants to protect the innocence of children, and I know the vast majority of Americans support him in that effort. This is a wildly popular and common sense endeavor this administration has taken, and we've seen many of these medical institutions have followed through with the president's executive orders, but we'll continue to take further action on this important issue. Garrett.
I too, if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
On the rescissions package, I wonder what the White House makes of this theory that it increases the odds of a shutdown. The theory is basically, why would any Democrat vote for a bipartisan spending deal with Republicans if Republicans can turn around and claw the money back the next day?
Look, $9 billion worth
Make Garrett Haight question. Kansas City's own Garrett Haight. Super inside the beltway procedural, but that's his gig.
And the American taxpayer, and I think our Office of Management and Budget Director was saying this process should be more bipartisan. Democrats, there was a time in this country where Democrats too cared about getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal spending. I think every American agrees the government spends way too much money on things that don't matter. Some of those things include PBS and NPR, or for instance, the Democracy Fund, which was funded to the tune of $83 million through the Department of State.
We're going to fund democracy. The Democracy Fund, that's not at all in line with what we're trying to do here.
$3.9 million for strengthening information integrity, equality, and democracy for LGBTQI population of the Western Balkans. These are not good uses of the taxpayer funds, and Republicans are proud to lead that effort, and we wish more Democrats would join us in that.
I wanted to follow up on the Maureen Comey question just to clarify. Did the White House have any knowledge, or did the president sign off on her firing?
This was a decision that was made by the Department of Justice.
That had nothing to do with James Comey's daughter being fired.
That was made between Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services regarding access to Medicaid information for 92 million Medicaid recipients around the country. That includes health information. So how does that not violate HIPAA violations and privacy concerns, for example, of American citizens?
I'm going to have to defer you to Immigration and Customs Enforcement on that.
Way too technical a question for Caroline Levitt. Pass on that one. Sounded like a good question.
Russ Vought said today he's going to be looking into cost overruns in the Fed's renovation projects. Is there a deadline for him to come back with findings to the president?
I don't believe there's a deadline the president has set for Russ Vought, but I think, again, this is a good use of taxpayers' time to look into this project that is millions and millions of dollars over budget. It's for a big, beautiful mansion for the federal chairman, reserve chairman, and I understand that it costs much more than it did the beautiful palace that many of you joined us at when we went overseas. So it's completely unnecessary, it's overpriced, and I think it's a good thing the administration, led by the president, is looking into it.
If there ever were to find wrongdoing or fraud, would the president reconsidering firing Jerome Powell?
Look, it's a hypothetical question. We'll see where it goes. The president spoke about how he feels on this matter yesterday. Sure,
Thank
go
you
ahead.
so much, Caroline. So we saw Ambassador Huckabee arrive to Prime Minister Netanyahu's trial to show his support. Does the president plan to impose any kind of sanctions against the Israel judicial system?
I don't have any update for you on that or any announcement on that front.
It's just in Mediaite as a Crystal Palace midfield attacking midfield just suffered possibly a season-ending Achilles injury. Terrible
They
news.
all agreed, the FBI director, the deputy FBI director, the attorney general, on the memo that they drafted and they released.
Thank you, Caroline. Just a follow-up on Reagan's question. Representative Salazar's bill, it grants illegal aliens with legal status for 7-year increments. It also gives permanent path to residency for so-called dreamers. And, you know, President Trump and Labor Secretary Chavez, who previously co-sponsored a version of this bill when she was in the House, they've spoken about a work deal similar to the bill, I believe. What's the difference between a work deal and amnesty?
Look, as I told Reagan, the president, the White House have not reviewed this specific piece of legislation. It's just not where our focus has been. But the president, for one, has been very clear he does not support amnesty. We'll go to, oh, look at some friends in the back. Brian, go ahead. You didn't show up early enough to get some good real estate up here.
I love it. Any update on the auto pen? I know that there was the DOJ and some others were looking into the thousands of documents that were signed off just before Joe Biden left office. Any
Another question. Is this Brian Glenn?
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at how far away you are, and you're going to need to get some microphones back there. On the auto pen investigation, yes. The White House counsel's office
As he asks the dopiest, most pro-Trump questions ever.
usage of the auto pen. We have requested some documents from the National Archives, and again, as I've said many times from this podium, and the president has said as well, it's incredibly important that we get to the bottom of who really was at the tip of the spear in the decision-making process here in the White House, because former President Biden himself admitted to the New York Times, I understand he never gave interviews when he was here, but now all of a sudden he wants to give one, and he said that he did not actually review every single pardon that he signed on his way out the door. That's incredibly concerning, and I can tell you it's something this president would never tolerate. This is a president who is signing things all the time. Any document that has legal implications.
Trump is the best signer of things. I do think the auto pen, combined with his cognitive decline, is a perfect story for the Trump administration
Answers on who was running the show, because
to focus on,
the
because
decisions
it
that were made in this place
helps
really
them.
destroyed our country.
And it puts
we
a
deserve to get to
spotlight
the bottom of
on
it.
what was clearly
Mark,
Trump's
in the
decline.
back.
Thanks. Some Christian groups are complaining that they are not able to get visas as quickly to travel to Israel. And it's been elevated to Ambassador Huckabee's station. Is the White House aware of that? Does it have any reaction to that? And is that part of the president?
Christian groups are complaining.
I'm not aware of that, Mark, but I'm sure, again, our National Security Council is, and also the State Department, as you know, travel visas roll through Secretary Rubio's shop over there, whom we work very closely with. So we will check in on the matter. But I know overall, this president and the administration do want to streamline the visa process to make it easier for both Americans who want to travel abroad and people abroad who want to come to our country the legal way. Sure. Go ahead. I was going to the gentleman above you, but go ahead, Libby, and then you can go.
Okay, two questions for you. The first is, during the Hill Nation Summit, Secretary Noem suggested there could be some changes to TSA's liquid limits. Is the president aware of that? Is that an idea that he's backing? And what would that timeline and the changes look like?
Sure, I would defer you to the Department
TSA liquid limits. Like, that was literally the question you had, the first of
She
two.
asked TSA, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can we make air travel more efficient while maintaining utmost security for American passengers and travelers?
Finally, someone asking you tough questions. Liquid limits by
You
TSA.
didn't
Come on.
take off your shoes anymore at the airport, which
I am pleased that we don't have to take our shoes off anymore. So maybe I'm premature in my snark.
that's in the Secretary of Homeland Security's overview, and I would defer to her.
The other question for you is on Bondi and Burgum's trip today to Alcatraz. I'm curious what the funding is going to look like for that, and who the president does want to see incarcerated there, if it were to become.
Sure. Well, this was an idea of the president. He spoke about it in May, and he directed his administration to review a reopening plan for Alcatraz if it is possible.
Alligator Alcatraz, but Alcatraz.
Touring the site, and if the Alcatraz prison is reopened, it would be under the purview of the Bureau of Prisons, and the Secretary of Interior also would play a big role in this.
Well, that's news. The prison, if reopened, will be overseen by the Bureau of Prisons.
And just to follow
Didn't see that
on
coming.
who the president wants to see housed in Alcatraz, the worst of the worst criminals in this country, both American criminals.
King Cynical one with a silly comment. Let's open the most expensive prison to ever exist. It's a lot of money. That's why they shut it down. Just as, Island prices.
Its campaign to eradicate Falun Gong, a peaceful spiritual practice. With the anniversary of this brutal persecution approaching, does the White House have a message for the CCP on this?
Well, I will get you one and we will get back to you. Sure. Go ahead. We'll take. Go ahead and then go ahead. Sure. I've never called on you. Why don't you go ahead? In the red tie.
Hello.
Dr. Harper behind.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Me, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yes, you. What's your name?
My name is Matias. Thank you.
What's your outlet?
I'm from Record TV, Brazil.
Great.
Brazil's President Lula recently said that President Trump was elected to govern the United States and not to act as the emperor of the world. And he also emphasized that Brazil is open to negotiation. I'd like to
Question from
what
Brazil.
you have to say about it, what the administration has to say about it.
Brazil's president was talking trash on President Trump. What you got?
Negotiation in the light of the 50% tariffs.
I should have been playing it
The
in
president
a
is certainly not trying to
detail.
be the emperor of the world. He is a strong president for the United States of America, and he's also the leader of the free world. And we've seen a great shift across the entire globe because of the strong leadership of this president. In regards to Brazil, the president sent a letter to Brazil announcing their new tariff percentage. He also directed our USTR ambassador, Jameson Greer, to launch an investigation of Brazil under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, designed to address unfair foreign practices that are affecting U.S. commerce. For years, we know Brazil's digital regulations and weak IP protections have undermined U.S. tech and innovative companies, and their tolerance.
Bob Roberts notes on chat that Brazil has a trade surplus with us, meaning that they're like the ideal trade partner for the U.S. So to slap them with tariffs and to hurt that, no bueno. Or whatever no bueno is in Portuguese.
We will continue to do so. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you.
There you go. That's Caroline.
Enthusiasm today.
Ladies and gentlemen, Caroline, love it. Well, that was interesting. Thank you for joining, says the White House. So again, I think Jackie Heinrich was the winner, asked the best question. I think Andrew Feinberg had a good question, citing Jordan Klepper's Daily Show bit about Ted Kaczynski, though I think he got those out of order. He had two questions, and he opened with the one that was sort of not that important. But the second one that she didn't answer was, if the Epstein files are a hoax, then would he consider pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, who is in prison right now? Let's recall that when Ghislaine Maxwell was initially, I think, captured or arrested, Trump was at that very podium, I think it was 2018, and was asked if he had any message for Ghislaine Maxwell, and he said, "I wish her well." Bum, bum, bum. Leave that as it may. I appreciate you guys watching. I'm Mediaite funding editor Colby Hall. Please tell all your friends about this, because this is a game-changing. The game has been changed, and we're going to continue to do this until the game has been changed. Anywho, thanks for watching. Have a lovely rest of your Thursday. Bye-bye.